operations in protest over unmet demand from domestic airlines.
When he came in, within a year, Nigeria moved out of the intensive unit, moved the back position.
The reserve position, particularly the net external reserves, were so bad that it was so difficult for us to fund our foreign transactions. It was so bad that the letters of credit issued by Nigerian banks in most cases were not honored by our correspondent banks. So that created a major crisis in our external.
This year began trying figures from the former government, both in person and in absentia.
At the inception of this administration, there was a currency printing liability was about 23 trillion naira that was inherited by this administration. And that had very serious implications for our macroeconomic environment, for inflation, and to make matters worse, the printing of money was done in a manner that was completely not transparent. It was a very, very bad situation that required urgent resetting of the economy.
2 years on, and with bold and sometimes difficult economic policies, the economy is beginning to turn the corner. Government revenues have dramatically increased, just as revenue to debt service has also come down to around 68%. States and local governments now get more allocations than ever.
Thus, I've been able to push out economic growth that was the highest rate that Nigeria has seen in 10 years with what we did in 2024. And alongside that growth, we have seen other great indications. Reserves of close to $40 billion. Unencumbered reserve has grown by about $20 billion, which is from 3.99 to 23 billion dollars. Nigeria was able to pay its IMF debt, the one that was procured during COVID, $3.4 billion fully paid, leaving some items of interest rates and special drawing rights to be addressed. Even we have also paid down Eurobonds and of about $2 billion of Eurobonds that we paid in 2024. And the states in 2024 alone in 2024, the states paid down 32% of their total global loans.
Now I can tell you that as a member of the National Economic Council, for the past 9 months, NNPC has not brought any money to Federation account. We largely depend now on Federal Inland Revenue and Nigerian Customs and non-oil revenue as our major source of funds for Federation allocation and fiscal mobilization.
The courage that has been displayed by Mr. President is quite unusual in this part. The hard decisions that we've spoken about for God knows when, he's been able to confront those two twin problems. First, with regards to fuel subsidy, gulping about $10 billion every year. So he came in day one, faced that head on, and then the issue of devaluation of the currency and floating it, ensuring that there's transparency and confidence built in the last few months.
Stability is fast returning to the foreign exchange market, and the country has just recorded a balance of payment surplus of $6.83 billion for the financial year 2024.
I would say that we are entering what you can call a stabilization phase of the economy. The kind of that we experienced in the second half of 2023 up until the second half of 2024, those volatilities are beginning to fizzle out. From the second half,
Investment and Securities Act, several important pivotal reforms that globally and domestically everyone can attest to the inflection point that is the Nigerian economy this year. Investment is up, FDI is also up. You know, we've been tracking his investment announcements from his presidential trips, over 30 of them, as at December 2024, was $50.8 billion. Our job is to make sure that those announcements translate into bankable investments that we see through. And so those discussions and dialogues have continued to be ongoing.
The revenue of government has gone up 60% in 2024 compared to previous year. And that's the federal level. At the state level, the revenues to the states have doubled. So these are signs of the improvements in the government revenues as a result of the bold and courageous changes that were made that you have mentioned.
The measures we have taken so far in terms of orthodox monetary policies, we can see have begun to yield fruit. They have begun to yield fruit. We can see that accretion to reserves have been constant. And at one point in time, may I remind everyone, to decelerate. We can see that there's greater confidence in our markets.
What has happened under the solid mineral sector in the past 2 years is unprecedented as a result of the deep-rooted reforms of the Tinubu administration. Virtually all the metrics in the sector have changed. Investments are pouring in. At the last count, the government has attracted over $800 million in new investments to the sector. Among the new investments is a $600 million lithium plant in Kaduna State and another $200 million refinery near Abuja and 2 additional processing plants in Nasarawa State.
We have a policy of local value addition, which is also part of our 7-point agenda. And the idea is that for so long as we before born, minerals have been just raw materials and they've been extracted and exported to service the industries of developed societies. And so under the President Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda, we say no more. Now, we do not approve licenses from applicants who do not show us concrete plans of local value addition, which means you must process locally.
Revenue to the sector has also quadrupled in just the last 1 year. In 2024, the sector generated over 35 billion naira, up from 6 billion in 2023. And this is despite receiving only 18% of its 29 billion naira budget.
We created the mining marshals, which has become very popular and very, very effective in Nigeria. Now, in the last 1 year, because the mining marshal celebrated 1 year of its establishment a few weeks ago, and I reeled out these very positive and remarkable statistics. They've arrested over 300 illegal miners in 1 year of its operation. Over almost 150 are undergoing prosecution across the states in the country. And we've secured over 9 convictions, including foreigners involved in this nefarious activity. And this has really helped us to send a strong message and signal to the operators in this sector that it's no longer business as usual.
Some of the tough but necessary economic reforms of the have not come without some difficulties for Nigerians. The government has responded positively to ameliorate the situation. It's increased the minimum wage to 70,000 naira. It's also established the Consumer Credit Corporation with a provision of over 200 billion naira to make consumer credit more accessible.
Hitherto, Nigerians, especially the working class, find it extremely difficult to get money to buy cars, to build houses, to buy even household appliances. The President Bola, there shouldn't be any reason why an average himself wants to to note that it has done so well. So many Nigerians have been able to access that.
Another strategy to ease some of the fallouts of the economic reforms is a presidential CNG initiative launched by President Tinubu in October 2023. Switch to CNG.
We've attracted $491 million of investment to auto CNG, which has created 9,000 direct jobs and 75,000 indirect ones. To this end, the Nigerian conversion capacity of vehicles, petrol and diesel to 12 vehicles was also raised by almost 3,000%, with 100 new conversion centers last year.
In addition, rolled out supported several other initiatives to cushion the impact of its reforms. There is the Presidential Conditional Grant Scheme, which provides cash grants to micro and small businesses. So far, over 700,000 businesses have received 50,000 naira each, while micro and small businesses have received ₦1 million each from the scheme.
The citizens have made a lot of sacrifice in the reform process. So there should be a way to ensure that the benefits of the reform ordinary citizens. In other words, we need to monetize the benefits of the reform, because the citizens are still worried about the cost of living, especially the cost of basic things like food, the cost of transportation, the cost of care, the cost of education. So impact, more efforts, deliberate efforts to ensure that the cost of living is reduced, the whole reform process a lot more inclusive.
Determined to ensure every Nigerian who desires tertiary education is not in any way hindered by funds, the government launched one of the most consequential education initiatives in the history of the country. The Nigeria Education Loan Fund, NELFund for short, provides interest-free desire loan to enable them pay their fees and for upkeep. Beneficiaries of the interest-free loan are paying back 2 years after the jobs upon graduation. The government has made available over 200 billion naira for the takeoff of the initiative.
This scheme was designed and introduced by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, whose vision it is to ensure that everybody has access to education at tertiary level, and those who are coming up to tertiary level have the hope that they can rise to the highest heights without having to worry about funds. So we've disbursed in institutional fees somewhere 30 billion naira. For the upkeep, we've disbursed 24 billion naira. So we have disbursed a total of 54 billion naira, and
young Nigerians achieve their dream of getting tertiary education, as funding is our barrier.
Today, no child can be denied access to higher education because he comes from a poor family. He wasn't born to wealth and privilege. Some countries in Africa have visited Nigeria to learn the mechanics of this program. It's a landmark program.
The passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill in 2021 set the stage for a revolution in Nigeria's oil and gas industry. That revolution is now beginning to happen under the watch of President Bola Tinubu.
Company divest. And at divesting, divestments were frustrated. This government, the company into I would tell them globally. And so we have been able to successfully, allowed the divestments. The president, graciously approved of the divestments. And today, Nigeria has changed. Nigeria is a country that can your capex to invest and also divest as well.
For someone who has this experience, to see today an administration that allowed the Seplat Exxon transaction to go through successfully. I commend it. It's not me, Tony Miller, Holdings Group buying it. It's others, but I commend it. Those are the signaling effect people want to see, investors want to see, that brings them to invest in the country. And by the way, not just investors come to invest, financiers, because we need capital. Those who will release that capital want to make sure that where the capital is going to is conducive. So when you approve Seplat Exxon transaction that has been on the table since life started, it is telling a signal. You don't need any CNN advertisement.
Investors are now showing renewed interest in Nigeria's oil and gas sector. In December 2023, French energy giant Total Energies committed to invest $6 billion in the country's oil and gas industry. Other IOCs like Shell and ExxonMobil have also demonstrated similar commitments in the region of $13 billion.
There are investments that have run into tens of billions of dollars. There is also another investment that is coming that is about $20 billion, but it's good for it to come. It is announced, where it is right, but we are very close. I believe that within a very short period, that announcement will be made.
The country's refineries are now coming back on stream. Together with the privately owned Dangote refinery and other modular refineries, they've helped to cut Nigeria's petrol import by around 50%. It's now only a matter of time before the country completely ends petrol import and safeguards foreign exchange.
Within no short period of time, we will have 1.2 million barrels of refining capacity. What that does is, of course, it makes us self-sufficient in petroleum products. It gives us the ability to export petroleum products efficiently, formally, legally, and profitably. But more important than that, along with that refining capacity comes of industrial raw materials from the adjoining and the complementary petrochemical complexes.
Oil theft and other constraints still remain threats to the country's crude oil production target of at least 2.1 million barrels per day in 2025. But the government is not giving up on its projection.
Well, that's, the major challenge as we came, but, with the collaboration of security agencies together with civilian contractors, we've been able to, reduce the oil theft. And that is why you see the increment that we made, over the last 2 years. But we will continue to improve on what we have been able to achieve.
On security, I speak as a significant investor in the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. Our group, as Energies, we are the third biggest producer of oil in Nigeria today. We produce over 50,000 barrels of oil on a daily basis. In December 2021, I tweeted and I cried out because we will produce, and what we'll get at the end, when we put in the pipeline, we'll get 3% of total production. And so we cried out and we shut down. We said it's totally unsustainable. We are working for thieves on the country. And that is the manifestation of insecurity. Now, fast forward to December 2024. Our recovery is 100%. What you put in the pipeline, you get at the other end. That's totally impressive.
At inception, the Bola Tinubu administration had inherited a total of 2,604 projects in the Ministry of Works from the previous administration, totaling 13 trillion naira. The figure would rise to 19 trillion naira following the removal of petrol subsidy, floating up naira.
So the president, in fact, and of course, that we should do prioritization. So out of these 2,604, we selected about 400 projects, major projects, review them, and they are all ongoing. And then the new projects of Mr. President under this administration is about 65. And and of course, this 65, excludes the 4 legacy projects of Mr. President.
The 4 legacy projects are ambitious, gigantic, and transformative road projects. They're unprecedented in the history of the country and linked. And this is one of them. The 750 Lagos highway, which will run from Victoria Island in southwest Nigeria to Calabar in Cross River State, the country. Work has since begun on the project, and its first phase, which is approximately 30 kilometers, will be commissioned in May.
Incidentally, it has 2 spurs. The first spur is, it was supposed to be Sokoto, Badagry, Sokoto, as, envisaged by the Shagari administration, about 45 years back. But the president, changed it to Sokoto. Intention to start from. As we talk today, we have 258 kilometers by 1 carriageway going on at KB section, and we have 120 kilometers, going on in Sokoto section. We are about to procure the second carriageway of 258 in KB and 250 and the 120 in Sokoto. But this is a spur, of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. So, but the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, 750 kilometers of route, of course, it runs through Lagos, to Ogun, to Ondo, to Edo, Delta, Bayelsa, Port Harcourt, Akwa Ibom, and the ending at Cross River. And when it ends at Cross River, the axis of Cross River now starts from there to the the 3rd legacy project of Mr. President, which is the Trans-Sahara, route, which is 462 kilometers. And it connects from the, Calabar end, going through Calabar to Ebonyi, to Enugu, to Benue, to Kogi, to Nasarawa, and ends in Abuja. And then it connects the 4th legacy project of Mr. President, which is 482 kilometers, which, starts from, Akwanga. If you look at the just concluded project of, Kefi to Makurdi, which is been told now, then from that Akwanga section, it gets to Jos. And from Jos, it gets to Bauchi, it gets to Gombe. So the entire 4 legacy project of Mr. President, if you look at the loop, it's all connecting the 6 geopolitical zone.
While work is ongoing with the legacy projects, inherited major projects are also receiving equal attention. Among them is a 700-kilometer Abuja-Kaduna-Kano highway.
I think Nigeria never had it, this good. And I want to say, with all sense of responsibility, that before now, past government has been building roads. But today, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is constructing roads. Because we are constructing roads that will last from 50 to 100 years. And the problem we've had in our road construction has been, poor design, poor construction, poor method of construction, and then lack of on the side of all partners, getting things done. But it is no longer business as usual.
Across the 6 geopolitical zones, road projects are currently over the minister who's not passionate about executing the president's ambitious works projects.
There is no money anyway. The ones that we have, the president is judiciously using it very well. And I'm happy with his engagement in this legacy project because foreign money is coming in as low as 2.5%. Naira funded, and then 50%, when a nation borrows to do infrastructure, that is the right borrowing. And I tell you something, these legacy projects are not just road projects, they're investment. By December, we would have finished section 1 of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. Apart from the inherent benefits, we also money, return on investment under 10 years. We're going to be tolling it, So when we borrow to invest, will we recover the money we borrowed we'll be able to pay back, and we also, it becomes also part of the, the wealth of the nation.
Issue of it was a room we looked at with the chief system of transport. He continued with what the previous government started, the railway system from Lagos to Ibadan, from Ibadan to Kaduna, from Kaduna to Kano, Kano to Daura, Daura to Katsina, Katsina to Maradi, Maradi to Jibia in Niger Republic. That project has continued going on now, and the gas, which is necessary for the gas, especially in those areas like Kaduna, that work is going on.
Housing challenge confronting the country, but one has launched the renewed hope housing in plan to be 3 years. That on course, thousands of homes are currently being built across different states. The first set of houses will soon be handed over to successful applicants. Nigeria's perennial electricity challenge has for long defied every solution thrown at it. Initiating some drastic reforms like the of the Electricity Amendment Bill 2024, making huge investments, is gradually turning things around.
On 2nd of March 2020, Nigeria reached remarkable generation available capacity of 6,003 megawatts, marking the first time this level has been recorded in the country's history. That is not enough. This achievement was followed by a peak generation evacuation of 5 out of March 2025, which also saw an impressive energy output, the highest ever, 128,370.75 mega hours per day on that very day. We've always been in 119,000 megawatts on
4,000 megawatts of power. But with its reforms, this government has been able to add 1,700 megawatts to attain a peak generation of 5,800 megawatts in less than 2 years.
Now that we have created the trajectory, if we sustain this trajectory, I can assure you that before the end of this administration in 2027, the first 10 of this administration, 2027, we should be able to generate and distribute nothing less than 8,000 megawatts of power.
Investments now coming into the electricity sector as a result of the reforms by the government. Many states now regulate their own electricity market. The government is also investing heavily on renewable energy for communities across the country that are not connected to the national grid through the Rural Electrification Agency. While the electricity sector still faces a number of challenges, the reform in the sector is no doubt changing the narrative one step at a time. In the rural capital territory, Abuja, an infrastructure revolution is going on. FCT Nyesom Wike and his team are bringing the president's ambitious aspirations for the capital to reality, one project at a time. In just 2 years, the number of projects executed and completed is mind-blowing. And they run across the entire FCT, covering both the city centers and satellite areas where many of the residents and indigenous people live.
The leadership Mr. President has shown is what can encourage us to take bold decisions to say, we can't continue to be business as usual. We must do things in different ways. But before that, it's very difficult because that leadership was not provided. And you don't want to go and take a decision where you're embarrassed by appointment. Nobody does that. So now we have seen that we have a leadership that's focused and saying, it wants results. It does not want excuses. It does not want, oh, you see, people did it. No. He has confidence. He believes you have what it takes to support him, to achieve what he has promised Nigerians. So what is all this excuses that this happened, that didn't happen? So all we are doing is to continue for what we have stopped last year. Last year, it took us about 12 days, 13 days of commission of projects. This year alone, it's taking us 19 good days of projects. It has never happened.
The projects are fast changing the face of Abuja. New bus terminals have sprung up in the city. New roads and bridges have been built, and more are still under construction. Satellite towns are now being opened up as genuine development is reaching underserved communities in the FCT. One of the key sectors President Tinubu prioritized on coming into office is the health sector. It's partly what informed his decision to put Professor Mohammed Pate from the Global Vaccine Alliance Gavi and appointed him Nigeria's coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare. Almost 2 years on, and with the introduction of several reforms by the administration, Nigeria's broken health system is now fixed.
The investment that we have had in 2024 and here have been issue that is emerging in our society. President approved for 6 major cancer infrastructural upgrades and equipment upgrades in 2024. World-class radiodiagnostic centers in collaboration with NSI, for instance. There are 10 major radiodiagnostic centers that are being constructed right now. The subsidy that the federal government provided for dialysis, for instance, for kidney patients. Federal government bought 10,000 dialysis commodities through centers all across the geopolitical zones of Nigeria to make it cheaper for patients that are dialysis dependent. And accelerated renal transplant is coming along. They are looking at that. In the 80s, but he was fixed within a week in a public hospital in this country, and within 4 weeks.
In the Nigeria health sector renewal, the reform in the health sector is fast transforming the country's health infrastructure, attracting over $3 billion in grants and investments. The government is investing massively to turn around the country's primary health care system. Existing primary health care centers are being upgraded. Over 8,000 new ones are now being built across the country.
So we set out to expand the primary health care system, to make it functional at level 2, to improve the functionality. So we embarked on increasing the functionality of primary health care, over time extending them to 17,000 that are functional. That Nigeria have the points. It's to revitalize the basic healthcare provision, and in the last of the 11 ministerial oversight convenings of the basic healthcare provision that disburse resources to all the 36 states, to those thousands of primary healthcare centers that are called BHCPF. Their fuel for the running commodities on the supply side, and we're seeing of today 20 million contacts every quarter.
Beyond health infrastructure, the Tinubu administration is making healthcare easily accessible for all Nigerians. Today, pregnant women who require cesarean section can access the service for free at federal health facilities. Kidney patients can now get up to 80% subsidy on dialysis services at 11 federal hospitals across the country. And to address the manpower shortage in the health sector, the government has so far recruited over 2,000 doctors and nurses, as well as engaged 774 national health fellows across local government areas in the country. Over 600,000
we've turned around what was a very complex, underfunded, hyper-fragmented sector that underperformed relative to its peers to one that is being recognized.
Even though the president signed an executive order waiving import duty on health equipment, the government is also ramping up efforts on local pharmaceutical production.
By 2027, it's expected that 60% of health products, including personal care products, will be manufactured in Nigeria.
For over a decade, Nigeria has battled myriad of insecurity challenges, pushing the country to the brink. Learning from the challenges and successes of the previous administrations before it, and barring recent setbacks, the Tinubu administration is changing the narrative.
I think the most obvious thing is the commitment by the government. From the beginning, the president made very clear his commitment to address the security challenge, and this is manifested in different ways. First, in his renewed hope agenda, where he made security second key priority. Steady increase, and in fact, an obvious increase in budgetary provision for the security sector from what he inherited at about 1-point-something trillion to 3.6 trillion thereabout, which is the last budget, the 2025 budget. We've also seen his engagement with the security sector leadership. You recall that one of the first things he did after his swearing in to visit the office of the National Security Advisor with some of the security sector leadership. So that commitment, I think, it's unquestioned.
In just 2 years, the security reforms of the administration are bearing positive results. Terrorist attacks are declining. At some point, they've reached their lowest in over a decade. Terrorism-related deaths are also coming down. Attacks in the southeast have now been reduced by almost 75%.
The last 2 years is watershed, indeed, in the fight against banditry. 11,250 hostages on record free. A decline, we started witnessing the decline in abduction. Decisive blows to top warlords. The Kachallas, Ali Kachalla, Boderi, Halil, Angote, Isu, Yellow, Ari, all of them have met of such over 70 of their deputies, hundreds of foot soldiers in the northeast, Mr. President, why it all started over 20 years ago, the Boko Haram, the jihadis, over 13,543 terrorists and criminals neutralized since we came in. Over 124,408 Boko Haram ISWAP fighters and family members surrendered. Over 11,118 weapons recovered and destroyed. 52,596 rounds of assorted ammunition recovered and destroyed just in Borno State. Southeast, a welcome development is that the sit-at-home orders is becoming more and more ineffective. Key IPOP ESN figures capture and neutralize many in the battlefield. Over 50 police stations and many police forces are back in business. Attacks on security forces significantly reduced. Social and economic activities are normalizing. This can be testified by anyone who will visit the Southeast today.
Insecurity still remains a challenge in Nigeria, but the Tinubu administration is tackling it head-on with a clear focus and determination.
We will invest more in technology. We will take over all our forests We must neutralize kidnapping, banditry, and terrorism. It was never like this before in Nigeria. But we will reverse the trend.
The aviation sector is not left out in the gradual transformation of the country as a result of the Tinubu administration's bold initiatives. Since he was appointed Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo has been leading the charge to transform the sector in line with the president's plan.
Through policy trusts, we have restored international and global confidence in the aviation ecosystem, especially in the global leasing world. We have brought back that confidence in the Nigerian ecosystem. And we have been able to do this, by instilling integrity in our system. And this was a fallout of our compliance, our strict compliance with the Cape Town Convention that we had been signatories to, but were very poor in adhering to the terms of that convention. And so it was public knowledge last year that we went ahead and took practical steps to comply with the tenets of the convention. We signed the practice direction in Nigeria, and then also rolled out the IDERA by the NCA. And this so as I speak with you, international leasers and financiers are back in Nigeria right now. And it's only a matter of time, not a long time, before Nigerians will feel the
remodeling of the old terminal. Several routes are now being opened for ease of connections across the continent and beyond. And some airlines that left Nigeria in the past are now back. Key bilateral air service agreements have been finalized, integrating Nigeria more deeply into the global aviation ecosystem, facilitating easier and more efficient air travel between Nigeria and other countries under mutual benefits.
We've been able to open up a number of routes again for our domestic airlines, and also to attract some other international airlines to ensure that traveling experience for Nigerians is enhanced, and Nigerians have more options on some of these international routes. And so, of course, you saw the return of Emirates, the return of Emirates to the Nigerian domestic international route. I mean, the return of Emirates to Nigeria, and Nigerians are beginning to enjoy that hub now in Dubai in their international travel. So, but there are other routes that we have been able to attract Nigeria. You know, the Italian route had been closed. We have opened up the Italian route again. But of the Abuja route coming, it was so that you could not fly to Cameroon. I mean, it's so funny. And when I came to office, I said, how could this happen? Just 1 hour to Cameroon. You have to fly, maybe spend 1 night before you now connect from Addis Ababa to Cameroon. Or you fly to Togo first, because Togo has a small hub there. And then from Togo, you now come and you start flying all over Nigeria. You'll be flying on top of Nigeria to go to Cameroon. That was how, odd. So we have that route in Nigeria.
Infrastructure improved upon. The long-delayed Abuja Airport second runway expansion is now getting off the ground. For the first time, the country now has the e-visa system for efficiency and ease of travelers as part of the immigration reforms of the government's air borders. There are also 40 e-gates at all major international airports in the country for faster and more secure passenger processing. Passport application process is now fully automated, significantly reducing waiting time.
In Canada, from Canada, were able to move to UK and I think Ireland. Remember, that was with a Nigerian passport. He has a more difficult chance of being attended to than a foreigner. But in this particular, under this administration, last time, Nigerian travel document, the passport has been imported into the PKD ICAO directory. So Nigeria is now compliant. And I'll tell you that before this government came on board, we never had any, in fact, profiling at our border posts were basically subjective and never objective. Profiling wasn't based on the principle of objectivity, and you know that any decision that you make on the premise of subjectivity is likely going to be laden with errors. But this government came and we introduced what we call the API solution, which is the Advanced Passenger Information System in terms of our air borders. So such a way now that because of our air borders. So such a way now that before any passenger comes into Nigeria, we have
thousands of tractors and other agricultural inputs are being deployed to help farmers not only farm on a large scale, but also rapidly improve their yields.
Mr. President has transformed from potential to performance, and is, like I said, driven by mechanization to market access, from inputs to export driven. Saudi Arabian minister came last year and he came and sought for 1 million tons of alfalfa and 1 million tons of soya, and also to develop 150,000 hectares of land across the
Young Farmers Club Nigeria, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, as part of a pet project, Renewed Hope Initiative. The Young Farmers Club Nigeria aims to revive Nigeria's indigenous occupation of farming, and opportunities, diversify the economy, and ensure food security.
Agriculture has always been the backbone of our nation. From time past, we have tilled the land with our hands and hearts, to the present, where agriculture continues to be a crucial part of our daily lives and economy. It is clear that farming is not just an occupation. It is a way of life which can create employment. It is a way of life which can create employment opportunities for our teeming young, help diversify the economy and put food on our tables. As I reminisce, I remember the groundnut pyramids and cotton plantations in the north, palm oil in the east, and
So far, many young people across the country have signed up to the initiative and beginning to take to farming. Gradually, misconceptions about farming among young people are changing.
In the years of reform, going forward now, the idea is to ensure that these reforms, the benefits of these reforms, really reach the people.
Let's do the hard work. And it will take time before the results become widely apparent, but we are seeing changes that are us on the right track.
We have a unique opportunity under President Bola Tinubu's administration to compete with our contemporaries all over the world. You need home government support to compete. We have it.
Nigeria is certainly on the rise. Agenda, the Tinubu administration is fixing Africa's most populous country and getting it to fire on all cylinders.
Many thanks for joining us again on the newsroom.
Telling you
from the blog. The Director of Voter Education and Publicity, Independent National Electoral Commission, Victoria Etamesi, has disclosed that the Commission, in conjunction with security agencies, has intensified.
Nigeria is also Africa's biggest economy of oil reserves.
And the directive requiring Nikon Insurance Limited and the Nigerian Reinsurance Corporation to transfer their entire fresh capital into an escrow account with the CBN.
Second largest city in Nigeria. In pre-colonial times, the Kingdom of Kano was an economic powerhouse. Traders were exporting goods like leather, quilted cotton, and dyed fabrics from Kano to northern African countries via camel caravans and then to Europe. In fact, what is popularly regarded as Moroccan leather were leather works by Kano craftsmen exported to Morocco through the Sahara Desert. Hausa at that time was the century later. We've come to our first stop here is the biggest grain market in West Africa, Kano State. The first bags are all grains: white rice, brown rice, white beans, soya beans, maize, millets, and several other crops. And it's that you can find just any type of food here. The market was established 34 years ago, and in that time, they've established a reputation that keeps traders coming back.
Akwai bambance-bambance masu yawa da ya kai wannan kasuwar matsayi da take a halin yanzu.
Kano was one of the powers of sub-Saharan Africa, and not just for economic reasons. Kano has an age-long political history rooted. Welcome to National Museum Gidan Makama Kano. It's of the Kano civilization. In 1842, the 17th king of Kano, King Abdullahi Barja, built this structure as a residential complex for his grandson. When Barja's grandson later became a senior councillor in the king's palace, or Makaman Kano, the house came to be known as Gidan Makama Kano, meaning House of the Senior Councillor.
When the British came in 1903, they conquered Kano and they took over Kano in 1903. And when they took the historical significance of this house, it was declared national monument in 1959. And it was divided into 3 parts. The first part was converted to a museum, declared open to public in 1985. We went to
National College. One of the teachers tells me the students are here because of the need to learn about the history of Nigeria and to better appreciate our identity.
I'm very sorry to say that, unfortunately, we are killing our history. To retain them by not rating, by facing the local indigenous technology, indigenous knowledge. So it's something that we really need to revive.
Since Gidan Makama Kano became a museum in here to see the wonders of ancient Kano, like weapons of war, royal attires for the Durbar festival, musical instruments, and even a vintage experience of what a traditional Kano. Thrive with practices subsisting many centuries on. An example of this is pottery. Traders display an array of rainbow-colored pots that have not just an aesthetic appeal, but also a functional purpose. They are used as vessels to serve dishes, water. Abdurrahim first mixes clay with sand, rolls it into a ball, glazes it with ash, and then molds it into his desired shape. He learns the art of pottery from his parents, who learns from his grandparents. From his earnings as a pots maker, he has trained 13 of his children to university level.
Mutane daga ƙasa suna zuwa su saya su tafi da shi su ma su sana'a su ci riba su sayar ga jama'a sai wannan abun har Saudiya ake kai shi a takaice kenan nan ba a ta Maiduguri Gombe Kaduna Bauchi ina ne ga sanan da masu ko daga ina.
One of the reasons why pottery is so popular in northern Nigeria is that it has a unique cooling feature. Water stored in the pots becomes as cold as dough, making it an ideal choice for storing water in a region that's the hottest in Nigeria. After many days on the road, we arrived Lagos, the city that never sleeps. More people in Lagos than there are in Kano, Port Harcourt, Aba, and residents regard it as street smart. A popular food here is agege bread. For millions of Nigerians, agege bread is a quick breakfast, a heavy lunch, and a late dinner. Agege bread is unique, delicious taste, but it's often unbranded. So we say at this bakery, bakers work in a fast-paced environment, mixing flour and other ingredients, milling, scaling, molding it into shapes, leaving it to rise.
Agege bread in something. There's no problem.
No bromate added to it. This is just simple and pure.
Gbogbo ayé ló fẹ́ràn búrẹ́dì Agege àtẹwà gan-an. Búrẹ́dì wa dáa púpọ̀ torí wípé kò ní bromate nínú.
Bread is not a traditional Nigerian food. So how did it become so popular in the country? Oyeyemi Shitu comes from a family of bread bakers. His father began selling bread made by foreigners who lived in Nigeria as far back as Nigerians came to love bread.
So that when they came with remnants of loads of from and beginning of tasting or having much knowledge about bread in Nigeria.
Sunshine of Nigeria makes me to believe that all over the world there's no place like Africa. For Nigeria is my
another widely consumed food in pounded or grinded in flour.
Gremia Kita